Okay, so in this video, we're going to be going over how to use the functions on your e-collar, remote and receiver. So first things first, for the remote, you're gonna wanna know how to turn it on and off. If you flip it over to the back, you'll see a big black button in the middle of the remote. It says on/off and light. You're going to press that and hold it down until you see the screen light up, and then it will say on. And then you're gonna do the same thing to turn it off. So hold that button down, it will say off, and then you can let go. In order to turn on your receiver, you'll notice there's a little red button next to the light display there on the front. There's also a little red button on your remote. You're going to touch those together. The receiver will light up green. You'll do the same exact thing to turn it off, and the receiver will light up red. You'll know the status of your receiver's battery because it will blink a color. Right now it's blinking green, so that means this receiver is charged sufficiently. When it starts to get low, it will blink yellow, so that means it's pretty close to needing charged. If it blinks red, that means it's going to die very soon, so I would not take your dog out and plan to work it on an e-collar that's blinking red, because it will probably die in the middle of it. And in order to charge the e-collar, you'll go home with the charger. The charging port is right here in between these contact points. You'll just pull the rubber stopper out and plug the port into there in order to charge it. If your dog is going to be swimming or getting wet, definitely make sure that rubber stopper is in there good. Same thing on the remote. These are waterproof, so your dog can go swimming wearing the receiver. It's not going to mess it up or anything. If you drop the remote in the water, it supposedly floats. I've never tested it, but that's what I've been told. But neither of these will get damaged by water as long as you have those rubber stoppers in there pretty well. So going forward on the buttons on the remote that we will be pressing. So after your dog goes home from the program, you will be working a lot with the e-collar and sending a stimulation to the receiver in order to communicate with your dog. And we're going to do that through just the red button. So the red button when you're working with your dog is the only button that you need to worry about. And we will be doing variations of just tapping. So one quick tap, you do have to press down pretty firmly, or holding down, so continuous stimulation. There is another button here on the right. It has a T on it that can either be set to a vibration or a tone setting. It automatically comes on vibration, and I keep it that way. And the only time I like to use this button is when I'm verifying that the e-collar is on and it's working and it's connected to the remote. So when I turn it on, I typically give it a few quick taps so that I can feel that it's vibrating and that it's working, and that I turned everything on correctly. So when you're working with your dog and we're using that red button, you'll also be going up and down on levels. So this is the little scroll here right at the top, and you'll be turning it clockwise and counterclockwise in order to go up and down. You'll be turning it clockwise in order to turn the levels up, and then you'll be turning it counterclockwise in order to turn the levels down. This remote does go from 0 all the way to 100, and it just says HI when you get to 100. Go all the way back down. And you will want to get used to scrolling up and down with just one hand, just for efficiency and the sake of having your left hand to hold a leash and do other things if need be. So definitely when you get home, take some time to play around with this and just get used to having it in your hand. I usually like to have this finger on the button and use these fingers to dial up and down. But yeah, and then another cool feature that I like to use a lot for this remote is the light on the back. So the button that we use to turn it off and on, that can also be used as a light. So you will just tap it once and you'll notice the receiver is blinking. You can tap it a second time and that will trigger a continuous light on the remote, and then tap it a third time to turn it off. And then obviously holding down that button is what turns it on, the remote on and off. And that's just helpful for if you're letting your dog out to go to the bathroom and it's dark outside, or you guys are on a late night walk, or you're doing some recall in the dark or anything like that. Having that on can help you keep track of where your dog is. So that is very, very helpful, and I do like to use that. Those aren't all the features of the remote and the receiver. There's other things you can do with it. You can connect 2 receivers to 1 remote if you have a 2-dog household and will be using 2 e-collars. I'm not going to go over that today just because that's not important to the program, and we won't be ever doing that with dogs that we're sending home from the program. But if you are interested in that, there are other videos out there on YouTube, probably some information on e-collar Technology's website that go over how to do that, and other things that you can play around with as well. But those are just the basics. That's how we will be using the e-collar during this program, and that's just to give you some of that foundation. And we can go over any questions that you have further on this stuff at the go home or post go home over email, phone call as well.